Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me. And it's a pleasure to have with me our Assistant Principal of the Year, who was just recently announced not that long ago, Nick McGruck. Now, Nick, did I get your last name spelled or pronounced right? I always want to make sure I got
You
that. Even
nailed
though
it.
I know it and have heard it, I always ask people with that, because like I probably shared even on these IPA talks before, I could always tell when a telemarketer was calling our house because nobody could ever pronounce Leahy. They could never get that right.
No, you nailed it. In
Excellent.
fact, I think I even detected a little Irish accent at the end of that too. So that was
Well,
pretty
it
great.
it is McGurk is an Irish name.
Probably more Scottish than Irish, but yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Leahy is an Irish name for
There you
sure.
go.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there we are, kindred spirits. We didn't even know that. We got that
From the
got that
same
going.
county. You never know.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Nick, you're there at Streeter High School. You've got a great team of individuals that you work with. Your principal, Amy Jo, of course, who is a former high school principal of the year in the state of Illinois. So obviously, you guys are stacked with your leadership and all the good work that you're doing. So thanks for spending a little time with me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the invite and thank you for having me.
So, Nick, let's kind of peel back here and go to the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about your career. What'd you do even before becoming an AP, and let's just kind of talk a little bit about that and what got you into the position of school leadership.
So I guess to a certain extent, you could say that I've been institutionalized. I've been in Streeter High School either as a student teacher, volunteer football coach, special ed teacher, and assistant principal since 1987. So I'm a townie,
Yeah.
and I came here as I graduated from Southern Illinois University with a degree in special ed, and I graduated in December. And my first gig was actually a pilot program of the regional office here, the first alternative school. And they ran a junior high group out of our building here. It was one of the first computer assisted classes. I want to say that was probably with no internet. It was just in-house server back in like say, oh gosh, what was it? 97, spring of 97, right in there. And then I took a behavior disorder class position the following August here at Streeter High School. Did that for 4 years.
So those
Switched over.
real easy jobs, Nick, those real easy jobs in education is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thrown right into the fire. I tell anybody if you can do 4 years successfully in a IEP, ED room,
Yeah.
you can teach anything.
That's right.
You can do anything, and that's self-contained all day, 6 different subjects, not to mention, your behavior modification plan
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
Did you
But
get much sleep during that stretch of time there? I mean, 6 preps, that's a ton.
honestly, I didn't know anything different. So, and I was happy to have the job. So it didn't bother me. And I was coaching football and baseball at the same time too. And my first child was born in 1999. And so I had 2 kids as well. And
So you
so,
really didn't get any sleep then.
no, sleep I appreciate it much more that I'm in my early 50s.
Yeah.
The old man nap is very much appreciated sometimes during the day. So, no, it was a trial by fire and loved every second of it. Actually, I would say I had a quasi leadership role, what became the department chair of the special ed department, which gave me some basic admin experience and got to see a little bit of the budgeting end and coordination of testing and a few different things, management of staff. So that was nice, and that kind of sparked my interest to go get my Type 75.
Yeah.
And then actually, Amy Jo and I are kind of attached at the hip. You mentioned Amy Jo Lotshaw is our principal, and she was also a principal of the year. She was the English department chair, and we actually both applied for the principal job
Yeah.
at the same time. And she was clearly the best choice for the job. She was prepared. She'd done some interim here while we were in a transition period. And it was a great experience interviewing for it. and got offered the AP job. So we kind of came in and have been kind of, uh, you know, uh, learning together,
Yeah.
and it's
So
been an
how long have you
awesome
been doing this together then in these two positions?
18 years,
Okay.
18 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
in tandem. So,
Let me let
so
me can I pull on that thread just a minute? So one
please.
of the things that we talk a lot about here at IPA, as we look at what's happening in the profession, turnover and churn is just a real issue, right? You've got like the stat that I share a lot is that if you hire a new school leader today, four new school leaders today into different positions, they could be rookies or veterans, in 5 years, you're only going to have one person still sitting in that seat. That's what the national statistics is showing of how much turnover we're
Yeah,
seeing. And when we think about our inability to get the types of improvements or things happening in school that we would like to see, it's impossible because you've got so much change in leadership happening. I'm just sitting here thinking the two of you together sitting in those critical leadership positions in your schools, you've been able to get a lot of things done because you've been able to see things through, I would assume.
that, yeah, without question. It's very difficult to come into a place assuming that you're going to be gone, or how do I put this? It's super important that you have people. Okay, I'll just put it this way. I'm currently working with my ninth superintendent
Yeah.
in 28 years. So that's a case in point. So, and I'm not, this is not braggadocious, but I think Amy Jo and I have kind of been the glue at this place, for better or for
Mhm.
worse,
Yeah.
but you're right, you get to see things through. A great example is back in 2008. If you ever remembers that's when the RTI initiative started,
That's right.
and every
Now known as
school,
MTSS, right?
yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, we were all told by our superintendents and the state of Illinois, you got to have a plan by January 1st, 2008. We had whatever, 9 months to come up with it.
Hmm.
And so I was tasked with that along with one of our great guidance counselors here, Mr. Brad Britton, who's retiring this year. And we went and got in-service trainings, and there was no plan for high schools. There was a little bit of a plan, and they could tell you how to implement it at the elementary level, but zero plan for high schools. So we looked at that as an opportunity to create something, and that's really what we did. And uh, everybody had something on paper and had to submit something on paper and best laid plans. And I like to think that we were able to see our vision through, and that turned into a program we have here called. It started off with basically, I don't know, put it like a guided study hall, which is now called GPS, which stands for Guided Program for Success. Cool acronym. GPS takes you somewhere, and
Yeah.
um, we have our kids that we identify through eighth grade testing as kind of being at risk. And basically, what we do, and we were able to get to this place, and it developed over years, was we were able to, any kid that has an IEP that has two of the three core classes, math, English, science, will qualify if they're in regular ed, if they're taking those classes in regular ed, or if we have regular ed students that fit a certain grade level reading range. And also we'll take some extremely low regular ed math tracking scores. They don't have to sign up for the class as freshmen, but typically we find out that when the parents sit down and we schedule eighth graders for freshman year, a lot of them take it. So we started off with two sections of that class and kept data, which was great to be able to see it through and keep data. And now we have five sections of it, because we were able to recognize that how much we needed help. And that class is manned by two teachers in each class, and each class has roughly 12 to 15 students, at-risk students in it. But again, coming back to your point, only time allows you to collect the data and see it through. Let's look at an analogy from the NFL. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have had three head coaches in their existence
True. Yeah. Yeah.
because they've had guys with a plan.
Yeah.
and guys they trusted, the ownership trusted them to see it through. And that's been awesome here. And um, that's through multiple superintendent changes, and that's through multiple school board member changes, um, who all have different ideas on how things should work and run. But we've been able to see programs like that through. And when you're looking at a population that has, 59% low income,
Yep.
um, declining enrollment, due to we're just an old Rust Belt town,
Hmm.
and so it's been important that the trust has been given to us to be able to enable, or enact a lot of those types of programs. Amy Jo started a food pantry a few years back. That's been thriving for now 7 or 8 years. It's a community thing. People know about it. Well, if she's only allowed to do her job for 2 or 3 years before somebody gets upset with her, then somebody else comes in, we start from scratch again.
Yeah.
So it is huge, and I recommend anyone who's out there who's in a position such as a superintendency or a board member to, when people come in with big ideas, enable or talk to them about how to get it done, and don't tell them why it can't be done,
Right.
and give them some room to make mistakes and fail a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky to be in, and I don't know. And again, I'm not going to claim to know what the grass is like. I hear those numbers that you talk about, the turnover rate. I don't know what the grass is like in other places. This is the
Hmm.
only place I know, and I like the grass here.
Yeah. Well, obviously, your community is blessed, Nick, as a result of your consistent leadership, Amy Joe's consistent leadership, and the kind of the adage I always throw out there when we talk about churn is that teachers struggle with buying into new vision and new ideas because they'll say things like "this too shall pass," and it's because the leadership passes all too often, right? And people are moving on, and some of those things could be good reasons, but all too often we see people burning out, or they're not getting the support that they need to do the job, and they've determined it's just not a good fit, and so that they move on. And so as a result, you've been able to really see some pretty interesting things through. Now, with your at-risk program, I want to just circle back to that real quick, because I think people would be interested when it comes to identifying those students. You talked about the data. What specifically are you looking at as they're coming in? I'm sure it's a multiple of things. And then also, what are you specifically tracking as you go forward? And I would encourage, we'll make sure your contact information is on there. I'm sure people might be interested in following up with you about that if they're listening to this.
So I pulled up, just in case something like this came up, I pulled up some data for this. Um, so we use our eighth grade testing scores that we give. We go out and many people do the same thing. They go out and test their eighth graders on reading and math and so on and so forth. We use that data. We look at comprehension as number one, reading comprehension as one big indicator. And we also look at, I guess it would be kind of a algebra readiness test.
Yeah.
And we use the Orly-Tana. Anyway, I'm sure that people use other things, but that's what we use. And basically, we create a window, which would be your bottom performing anywhere from 7 to 10%. We eliminate what would be the category of special ed students that would be in special ed more than 50% of the day, because they have other classes and different things that are there for supports. But what we did, and we just added the IEP kids to this program 3 or 4 years ago, because we were seeing that they were kind of a gap. There was a gap there. They weren't getting the supports, but they were expecting them to do some regular ed courses. So we added them to be able to get into that GPS class and qualify for our services here. So basically, I go through the list of recommendations that the guidance counselors get. I get to identify which kids, based on their scores, are fit that numerical window. We will get some kids who maybe tested poorly, or we'll see like, oh, this kid had an amazing English score. Their reading is post high school, and then their math score was down here. That's a little bit of a red flag. We still may put them on the recommendation list, but then when our guidance counselors go down, our guidance counselors here go out to all of our feeder schools. That'd be Grand Ridge, North Lawn Junior here in town, St. Michael's here in town, Ransom grade school out in Ransom, Illinois. And they meet with all the eighth graders and the families individually at those schools. So they'll have a list. Hey, okay, this is the kind of window you fit into for English, math. Here's your science. Hey, and by the way, you qualified for the GPS services. Here's what this is. It's a structured study hall where you'll get study skills curriculum, and they will be they'll help you get organized. They'll keep in touch with your teachers, monitor your grades, and they really have a choice whether they go into it or not. I would say at that point, 85% of them choose to take the class. The other 15 kind of identify themselves as that kid who maybe didn't try real hard on the test, or had a teacher recommendation from an eighth grader, like, oh, this kid should be in advanced English, even though what the test score, they made a dogged it that day.
Sure.
So those kids kind of get weeded out a little bit as far as where they should fit. Yeah. And then typically about 6 to 18 weeks later, we get some of those families calling us saying, boy, we wish our kid would have taken GPS. We monitor it. I meet with the GPS teachers just like this. I actually meet with them via Google Meet once a month, and we talk about every kid in those classes and talk about their progress and how many classes they are passing. And we also don't want this to be a place that they become dependent on. So we kind of every November and also late April, we have what we call the should I stay or should I go meeting. And we recommend that who should remain in this support class, or who should move out because they've got the skill sets they need to take another regular ed course.
So, Nick, you also talked about, having a couple of teachers within each of those courses. I'm guessing, knowing you and your partner there with Amy Jo, you guys are being very intentional about who you're putting in those classes, right? So, who are you? What kind of skills? What are you looking for in those individuals that you assign those courses?
Ideally, we wanted a math and a English teacher is what we wanted in those courses. And we wanted consistency. So if you're going to be the GPS teacher, you're going to be in there the majority of the sections. So it's not, a rotating English teacher every time. We wanted you to have a little bit of a caseload to follow and get to know those kids and understand where they're at. We did see a little bit of an issue with our freshmen being able to pass regular ed science classes. So we replaced the math teacher with a science teacher a few years ago in our freshman level GPS. We have 2 sections of the freshman level and 3 sections of the upperclassmen level going right now. So very few seniors are still in it by that time. Sure. They basically worked their way out, or they've decided that they want to either enter some got their basic graduation requirements covered and want to take some more vocational classes their senior year. But that's the method of the madness right there. And and they love it. Our teachers that are in there, very rarely do we have somebody, I think I'd like to go back to the regular classroom. I think that the vibe we get from them is they get a sense of like they're getting something accomplished. Yeah. You see that, we all see that teacher who feel, am I getting anything done? Am I accomplishing anything? Every day is different. There's different fires to put out with every kid, and the quiz that's coming up in English, or the quiz that's coming up in math, or I got to get these kids ready. They're in the same science class, and we're going to quiz these guys today, so make sure they're ready for their science quiz. And they walk out feeling like they're contributing, they're serving, they're living a life of service, and that's really been cool to see. Not only create a situation that is super awesome for at-risk kids, but to create a situation that teachers want to get into. So that's been awesome. And one thing I want to throw out there, and if anybody does have a question about this program, we track. You asked what data we track. We track GPA. So every kid's GPA is tracked throughout, and we track them not only as individuals, but we track them as a cohort.
Yeah.
Um, we
Well,
also
that's a nice indicator of a lot of things, right? I mean, if they're comprehending the content, are they in school, right? Attendance is attached to that, all of those things.
Yeah, and not to say, I believe not to say that a kid's reading level can't improve in high school. It can, but I believe the data will say by the time you get to high school, it's much more difficult. So we could track, grade level reading. I know we do that in our special ed department with those kids. That's part of their regular data collection. We just saw such we'd had such a we have kids sometimes with a come in with a fourth year, fifth month reading level, and some kids who were 11th year, but
Mhm.
they have different struggles. So that really wasn't going to help us much. So we said, what is the nuts and bolts that you need to have when you get into high school? You got to pass classes.
Yeah.
You got to pass, and we measure graduation rate. Interesting statistic here: these kids have a higher graduation rate than our actual school-wide graduation rate by about 4 or 5%.
Wow.
So I think the raw data shows you that intervention and targeted intervention, and investing in that is effective.
Yeah, yeah, that deep kind of support, deep relationships between those kids and those instructors. Coming back, you talking about the staff, meaning in the position in a job is a strong motivator for people. And I'm sure that those individuals that are working with those kids are seeing the immediate impact of their work and they draw a lot of meaning for that, which is probably why they want to stay with those kids. That's pretty awesome.
It is, and the parent and part big component of it is parent contact.
Sure.
Uh, again, in a low socioeconomic rural community, sometimes we have some. And again, I'm not a big fan of people that blame parents for things.
No.
Oh, it's the parents. Oh, it's the parents. If they had any better kids, they'd send us them too.
That's right. They're giving us the
No.
best ones they got, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're glad to have them. We're not a business. We don't get to pick our raw materials. We get what we have to work with. What I tell these guys is, when I get a teacher that's reluctant to contact a parent, I say, even, pardon me, even the worst parent wants to know their kid is doing well.
Yeah.
Even if they don't respond to a voicemail that you leave or respond to an email, if they read it and they know that you're showing concern, that is a positive thing. And better to reach out and fail in that contact than to not reach out at all. So
Yeah.
we definitely in that RTI setup that we have, that's a huge component is connecting with the parents.
Yeah. I love that the way that you phrase that. Better to have tried it and failed at the connection than not. It's like shooting a shot, right? Shooting a basketball. You're not going to make the shot unless you shoot the thing. So better do it. Better do it.
Yeah, it's easy, and it's never been easier in the world to try to reach out to a parent than right now. Now, actually connecting, you might have 5 different cell phone numbers that have changed. But we're doing, like I said, we do our best to connect via email. We try our best to connect with remind type apps. We try our best to connect with social media.
Yeah.
I think we're as a school very good at utilizing social media in terms of getting information out to our families and celebrating positives. So there's you want to get the word out there. There's a way to do it and communicate with every parent.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's not just pick up the phone and it's either, we have lots of ways to do it. Now there's no excuses not to try to build that bridge.
No doubt. No doubt. So speaking of connecting, I got two last things I want to touch base with you on here, Nick, during our time. Speaking of connecting, you share with me before I hit the record button that you've started up your own podcast here, and you're a few episodes into that. So obviously, great leadership opportunity too, and doing that. You mind sharing a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, I actually have more or less. I can see if I can take my camera. I'll see if it'll show. I actually
Oh
have
wow, that's quite a setup. Holy smokes!
Yeah, I know. I have an old setup from our PA here at the high
Yeah.
school, and I'm like, man, I think I can do that. I think I can mess that. Anyway, I have a little bit of. I know enough about audio equipment and to be dangerous.
Uh-huh.
So that says what I'm going to say. So I have a little experience DJing back in college and play guitar and know amplifiers and a couple things, stereo equipment.
I see you're a big Pearl Jam and Metallica fan there by what I see hanging up behind you as
I
well.
am. Thank
Yeah.
you for recognizing
Yeah,
that.
you
Thank you.
bet.
Appreciate that. Those are two banners from Wrigley Field shows right there.
Yeah,
And there's
nice.
Pearl Jam Wrigley
Well,
right
Eddie
there.
Vedder is quite a Cubs fan. He's a Chicago guy, right? I know. I know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. So anyway, I said, I can do this. And more or less, I started one just to show off our coaches and activities directors, make them human, to have a
Mhm.
little, got a basic script. I actually had this rolling prior to COVID. Had 3 episodes with a student club, and I had one episode scheduled for March something or other, and March 10th hit, and our world stopped. And so that kind of put that in the back burner. So finally was able to get this rolling again and have 3 episodes in the can with a cross country coach, um, and a drama teacher. And what was the other one I did? Oh, our volleyball coach. And basically just to humanize them.
Yeah.
Let's find out who you are, how you ended up here. We have some fun questions at the end, like a lightning round where I ask them, whatever, what's your favorite movie? What's your dream vacation? And they kind of hit that podcast sweet spot of 30 to 45 minutes. And I think I actually, I don't want to brag, but I think I have 4 followers on Spotify now.
Awesome. Well,
So
what's the name of it? We'll hopefully gin up a couple more here for you.
it's
What's the name?
Streeter High School Athletics and Activities Podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, and a couple others. Apple wasn't very friendly letting me get on there, but I'm gonna try to figure that out. I just haven't
Yeah.
dug in how to do it yet. I think Apple
I think
wanted
with
to,
Apple you have to like donate a kidney or something to get
yeah,
they got high
there was a
standards.
blood sample and a DNA test, and but I can tell you all 4 of those followers are very satisfied with what we're
Nice.
doing.
That's
But
awesome.
no, in all seriousness, I wanted to humanize the coaches and the activities. Right? You said you've been involved with sports and and different things, and we know that our coaches are getting harder to find, and we know that it can be unforgiving. You don't make a lot of friends sometimes, and they get a lot of rocks thrown at them. And I remember when I was starting out coaching football, and I was an assistant. I figured out how many hours I put into football. I think I was making like $2.27 an hour, with the weight room time, film time,
Mhm.
game time, practice time, the whole deal. And you don't do it for that, and you call that play that doesn't work on 3rd and 12, and you're the biggest idiot in town. So I want to humanize our guys and make people appreciate that they are just normal people. And
Right.
maybe if it makes a few people understand or have a little more empathy, with our coaches. And that's not everybody. There are people who are there are way more people that are genuinely interested in our people and have a passion for this school and are wanting to hear more about that kind of stuff
Yeah.
and are interested in it. So it's free. It was free to do. I mean, I did invest probably, the board we had, it was just an old board, but I'm looking at anybody wanting to do it. You could probably get a beginning setup for between $150 and $250.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of, I mentioned social media. There's a lot of people who are afraid of social media. It's a nasty place and all those different things. Well, it's only nasty if you participate in the nasty. We have kind of said, you know what, we're gonna meet the families and the kids where they're at,
Yeah.
and as much as they say it, they're not reading the local newspaper anymore, and local newspapers aren't giving us the platform for information that they once did. If you want to get the information out about an event, you get it on Facebook.
Right.
You want the parent, you have a fundraiser, you get it on Facebook, you get it on Twitter. We're on Blue Sky now. And you got to go to where the people are. And boy, what a, things like podcasting and things like using a well managed Facebook group or page, you reach people outside of your city limits when it comes to having fundraisers. When it comes to having, we have an activity fee here, for people. It's like whatever, $100, $125, and you know, I've had people every time we post information about the activity fee. I have people message me personally and say they live in Arizona, they live in Texas, they live in California, they're graduates. If somebody can't pay their fee, let me know.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Wow.
we haven't had since we started doing that 3 years ago and an advert using Facebook to get that word out. We haven't had one kid who hasn't had that was eligible for an activity fee that go unpaid because of just that ability to reach people where they're at. So
That's
think
amazing.
big and don't be afraid of the technology. Just learn about it. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but again, I could come back to what you talked about. You talked about ideas take time,
Right.
and
It's true.
it's a luxury that I've had. I've had the luxury of time to be able to see these things through and kind of look at the forest from the trees and say, oh, this is what we should try. And then it's just getting up the gumption to say, well, I guess I better try it.
Well, so let
Today's
me
the day.
that into the last thing I wanted to ask you about, Nick. So
Yeah.
you mentioned you've been in this position 18 years. You've been there in the streeter community much longer than that. But what keeps you sustained in the role? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing doing some new things like podcasting probably keeps stuff fresh. But it's school leadership's tough gig. It's not for the faint of heart. So what keeps your endurance and resilience up?
Um, Few things. I can say that in my position, I always like something different. I'm very satisfied. I think where I am right now, I do and we talked a lot about interventions, but I'm also the athletic director here, and I'm very happy with this. This has been
Because
the
you
most
didn't have enough to do with just the school leadership role. You needed the AD job too, not which is a different leadership role in itself.
yeah,
So
for sure. And you know, uh, I've been a kind of a jack of all trades, a little bit of a Swiss Army knife here. So I've done everything as it needed to be, and I didn't mind the change of the challenges. I've been head of the guidance department. I spent multiple years in the dean's office role doing discipline. Oversaw special ed for many of those years. So when I've had to put together in times of emergency, I've had to put together the entire master schedule. And again, that keeps me. I like that. I'm that guy that, okay, what are we doing? All right, no
hmm
problem. So keeping things fresh and looking for new challenges, I think, is huge. Some people that's too much stress, and I understand that they like where they fit. But I've always said, well, okay, if you're gonna give me I might screw this up, I might make mistakes, but I'll take it on, and that to me is refreshing. I love to work out. Um, I that keeps me my time in the gym here. I use the gym here at the high school. My time in the gym is my time, and it is
hmm
my time to throw on music and
Some Pearl
uh
Jam or Metallica, right?
have got my playlist ready to go. Might even be some, you never know, might be some Slayer in there,
Oh, there you
maybe.
go. Whoa,
Don't think
yeah.
any worse of me. Don't think anyone no. Um, there's some good stuff on there, but point is, that's my time to kind of decompress. And in my brain, I'm 18 years old again, and uh, I can just kind of let it all just kind of
hmm
go lift some weights, get some aggression out, or get on the elliptical for a half hour, whatever it is, and try to stay in shape. I play guitar poorly. That's something I really enjoy doing, and I try to play 15 minutes to 45 minutes a day if I can.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I don't want to miss an opportunity to be frank about this, though. I'm 4 years sober too, and it did get to me.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. And I needed help, and I let a lot of things get to me. I've got four adult kids, and there was a stress of that, and
Yeah.
and the stress of the job, and again, I'll tell anybody, there's many times where you thought, well, this would be a lot easier job if I didn't work in the building that I grew up in the town I grew up in. It has its advantages because kind of how people
Yeah.
tick, and certain things and resources. But I got my dog. I'm also the therapy dog person. Come here, baby.
Oh yeah.
Come here, Mabel. And she wants to go outside and play. But anyway, I took that on too.
I'll take your
So
word for it. That's all right.
yeah. So, but the point is, I had to crash and burn a little bit,
Mm.
um, and realize that, um, if anybody out there and I mean this sincerely because I know it's not uncommon. If anybody out there watching this is self-medicating with alcohol or whatever, you do it because it works for you. But eventually you start working for it. And if you get to that point, it's not gonna, it's, you have to, it's gotta clean it up. It's just gotta stop. And it was honestly, I think COVID exacerbated a lot that for me. And I thank God I had the support here, to get me through it. And I had wonderful people that I was working with. And, so I can't say, yeah, what keeps me fresh. I'm not gonna BS anybody and say that I've been 100% perfect, because I let it get to me, and have kind of come out on the other side, sitting with you today, brother. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
so
grateful for your transparency and openness and all of that. It's good advice for all of us, including myself, because there's plenty of tough stuff out there that we're dealing with. And since you were as open as you were, I'll just
second,
use this as a moment. Yeah, you bet. I'll use this
he's
as a
one.
moment to remind people about our member assistance program here at IPA. It's because
Yeah,
we
and
all
it's
we all
I'm
need
glad
some
you guys.
support, including myself.
Yeah, I mean, it is a thing, and I think I don't think, and I know plenty of colleagues when I was going through my situation, um, who divulged and told me their struggles.
Mm.
And it's not something in education I think we talk about. Um, I think it's something that, because we don't want to seem weak, and we don't want to seem, we're in charge of people's kids,
Yeah.
and
It's
we
risky.
don't.
I mean, let's just put it out there. It's risky, and so you got to be very careful about who you are communicating with and talking to about things. All of that. I mean, all of those protections definitely need to be in place. But man, we don't want people to be out there being hurt and hurting without getting help, which could lead to something maybe even much worse.
Yeah. So if anybody is, and I'll just say it like I said, if anybody's out there going through that, you reach out to me, and I can't tell you how to fix it, but I can tell you my story,
Yeah.
and that I'd be glad to do that, because that's what I needed. I needed somebody to tell me their story and realize that I had to fix what I needed to fix. Um, but I feel better, than I've ever felt. I'm honestly healthy. I told you about working out. Um, I got stronger. I felt like I felt 10 years younger again. I'm like, wow. I said my clothes after, 8, 10 months, I'm like, these clothes don't fit.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my joints don't feel much younger. I can tell you that much, but
Yeah, I'm reminded of that every time I get out of bed now. It's like, whoa, that's not 30 year old or 25 years old anymore, for sure.
so I don't want to dwell on that, but I think I need to be honest about that. So
Yeah, well, I'm sure grateful for that, Nick. Sure appreciate you just sharing so many different parts of your story, and want to offer up congratulations again for you being named our assistant principal of the year this year. And so thanks for that. Appreciate it. Any just last think about if you were sitting here with a brand new school leader, if you could just offer one quick tip for them, what would that be?
I I was thinking about this. I'm glad you asked this question, because one of our regional leaders here in the area, Heather Baker, she
Just
is
was in
an
her
assistant.
school last week, actually. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
outstanding.
she's awesome. She's from Streeter as well, by the way.
Yeah.
She went to school with me. She graduated a year behind me. She's a 92 grad. And I shouldn't, actually, I just dated her. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry about that, Heather. And she's a good friend and really good people. She invited me to go to a lot of the regions I know have like the kind of a seminar for people that are interested in getting into school leadership. And she invited me to be part of that panel. And the one thing I could say to anybody who's thinking about getting into this is we need great teachers. I get it. If you're an excellent teacher, and you say, well, why would I leave teaching? If you've got an inkling to do this, the most rewarding part of this, and there's going to be people who will scoff at this, I really enjoy the teacher evaluation process. I think it's a great opportunity to mentor teachers. It's a great opportunity to see what great teachers are doing and help spread that word, because we all think we know what's going on in everybody's classroom, but until you actually see it and can say, oh my gosh, how does everybody not know what Mrs. Jones is doing and how she's doing this? So being able to connect teachers, and we need excellent teachers talking to other teachers in the evaluation process and getting them ready. If you're thinking about going into admin because you're thinking, well, I'll go do that because I don't know if I want to be a teacher anymore. It's probably the wrong way to go, because the most important thing you do, it's not the budget. It's not the schedule. It's evaluating teachers.
Yeah.
And we need great evaluators, not to badger people, but to mentor people.
Yeah.
And because that's how you're going to have a great institution, is by working with young teachers, working with middle of the road. Some of the most successful experiences I've had with evaluation teachers are middle career people that are in a rut, and finding out what their passions are and trying to get them to incorporate that into what they do on a daily basis, and to talk to them and get them, hey, let's talk about the engagement in your classroom and some simple things you can do with some CRISP strategies or whatever to feel better about what you're offering on a daily basis, and go home more satisfied with yourself. That drive home maybe becomes a little more enjoyable when you feel like you're contributing more and can get out of that rut. So that's what I would say is young administrator, thinking about doing that. Please, great teachers, make that crossover. Come on over to the dark side.
That's right. Well, Nick McGruck, that's great advice. By the way, I was thinking about saying your name with a Scottish accent, but I would have just butchered that. But
All right.
our assistant principal of the year here in Illinois, AP at Streeter High School. It's been a pleasure spending a little time with you. And by the way, 92 was a good year because that's the year I graduated from high school too. So
all right, you dated yourself. I didn't do it.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director here at the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. If there's anything IPA can do for you at any time, be sure to give us a call or check us out on the web at ilprincipals.org. Take care.